Okay, and this is where we ended the last video on this slide here, and what we were talking about was, I suppose, the definition of how, in words, of how a consumer maximizes their total utility. And the way they do that is spending their money in this way here, which is the marginal utility provided by the last unit of each good divided by their price. These ratios here have to be the same. And I think, like for a lot of people, it doesn't really make sense. So what I'm trying to do now in the next, I suppose, 2 sections of this video is to give you a way to think about why it is this way, okay? Now, so what we're talking about essentially is measuring value or value for money, really, when we're talking about measuring marginal utility divided by the price. And what we're saying is, for the following, state which is the best value for money. So a meal at Marco Pierre White restaurant, which is a restaurant in Dublin, which will give you 1,500 utils, and that's what the marginal utility is going to be. That's what we're saying. That extra meal is going to give you that much marginal utility, and it costs €150. Or a Freddo bar, which is just a bar of chocolate, which provides 20 utils and costs 20 cents. Now, kind of 2 things are important here. First of all, well, how are we going to measure value for money? And secondly, just as a bit of an aside, for those people that aren't used to the euro, 20 cents is 0.2 euro, just to be clear. Well, the way that we're going to talk about measuring value for money is utils per euro spent, but more accurately, it's marginal utils per euro spent. Well, the meal at Marco Pierre White's gives the consumer 1,500 marginal utils. Okay, so there's the top line. And we're going to divide it by how many euros we spent on it, which in this case is 150. And the important part that I want you to get here is that for every €1 we spend, we get an extra 10 utils of marginal utility per euro. And that's what you're trying to think. You're trying to say, okay, so how are we measuring value for money? Well, for every euro we spend, we get 10 utils per euro in terms of marginal utility. And you say, well, is that good or bad? Well, you know, we can't really tell, but what we can do is measure or compare the euros or the utils per euro that we get when we're spending money on goods. And when we talk about the Freddo bar, it's 20 utils, but yes, it's way, way less. But the price, the amount of money that we're spending on it is also way, way less. And I hope you see now that the Freddo bar, at least utils per euro, gives you far more value for money. Because for every euro you spend on that Freddo bar, you're getting 10 times the marginal utility per Freddo bar than you are per euro than you are for utility per euro spent on the restaurant. So the idea here is what we're trying to do is measure value for money. But this time we're measuring it in terms of utils per euro. So obviously you would buy the Freddo bar. Now, as you buy the Freddo bar, what happens to the marginal utility? Well, we know because of the law of diminishing marginal utility, the next Freddo bar will give you less utils per euro. But we don't need to worry about that yet. Now, the next one is a wrap at Donnybrook Fair, which is a shop in Ireland. And a wrap is like a cold burrito, essentially. Okay, and that provides 200 utils in marginal utility and costs €5. Or a day go-karting provides 3,000 utils and costs €100. Well, again, how are we measuring which is the best value for money when we're trying to find out the utils per euro? So for every euro we spend on that wrap or that burrito in Donnybrook Fair, we're getting 40 utils per euro. And for every euro we spend on the go-karting, we're getting 30 utils per euro. So we're much better off given the choice. And of course, like these things have to be like right beside each other and stuff. But we're much better off spending our money on the wrap until the utils per euro, the marginal utility, falls below 30, and then we're better off getting more value for money, spending our money on the go-karting. Okay, so the wrap in Donnybrook Fair is the one that yields the highest utils per euro, and as such we will buy that first at least. And the last one is banana provides 20 utils and costs €1, and apple provides 10 utils and costs 50 cents. So again, 50 cents is half a euro. And what we're saying here is they give you the same. So in utils per euro. So in this scenario, the consumer is absolutely indifferent, and he might as well just flip a coin about deciding whether he's going to have the banana or the apple. Okay, so we've already talked about this. We've talked about value for money, and what I want you to see is each of these, the whole fraction, measures value for money in terms of utils per euro. And what you're going to do in order to maximize your total utility, you're going to spend your money in such a way that this whole fraction here, so this could be 10 times bigger than that, but that would mean that the price of the first good is going to be 10 times bigger than the price of the second good. Okay, it's value for money. It's marginal utils per euro. And what you're going to do is you're going to spend your money so the whole fraction is the same for every single good that you consume. Now, there is one extra caveat that I have to bring in. Okay, we know that from the assumptions about the consumer that the consumer has limited income. And what we say here is that you have to spend all of your money. Now, we've talked about this in the previous video, but the reason that you have to spend all of your money is thus. It's because you derive happiness from consumption. And we know that the consumer is trying to reach the maximum happiness possible. So if the consumer did not spend all of their income, that means they would have an opportunity to increase their total happiness that they were not taking. And as such, that would break what I believe was the second assumption that we had about consumers out of the 4 assumptions. So you also have to spend all of your money. Okay, well, this is my favorite chocolate bar, I suppose, which is a Maro bar, okay? And it costs €1. And this is the coffee. And these are both the marginal utilities. We see here that the marginal utility of Maro bars, as I continuously and successively consume Maro bars, the marginal utility that I derive, the extra happiness that I derive from each Maro bar falls. And that's just the law of diminishing marginal utility for Maro bars, and of course the law of diminishing marginal utility for coffee. Okay, and the thing is, you may look at this and say, well, obviously I'm just going to buy coffees pretty much because the marginal utility is higher for every single one. And well, 2 things, no, that's wrong, because as you go down at least one stage, the 10 is higher than the 6 here. But secondly, you're missing the point of people say this, and my students say this to me sometimes, is that the coffee costs twice as much as the Maro bar. So keep that in mind, because you'd want to get at least twice as much happiness in total terms, in terms of total marginal utility, than from the coffee than you would from the Maro bar, because you're spending twice as much. And that's what we mean by value for money, by utils per euro. Now, so we know that we have to spend our money in terms of the marginal utility of divided by the price for each good has to be the same. So what I've got here is the marginal utility of each Maro bar, and I'm going to divide it by the price. So obviously, I think just with a cursory look at it, you'll see that this column is the same as this one, which is the marginal utility divided by the price, but because price is 1, it's the same. However, this is where it starts to change a little bit, because the price of the coffee is €2 per coffee. So the marginal utility divided by the price, well, each of the marginal utilities half. And then that's what we get from 12, it goes from 24 divided by 2, which is 12, all the way down. Now, the sequence of purchases is actually quite important, because again, we're saying to ourselves, which gives us the most value for money? Well, what should he do first? Should he buy the first Maro bar, which will give him 10 utils per euro, or the first cup of coffee, which will give him 12 utils per euro? Well, obviously the coffee is better value because it's given more utils per euro, so he has that coffee. Now, the next question becomes, well, what should he buy with the rest of his money? The first Maro bar, which gives him 10 marginal utils per euro, or the second coffee, which gives them 10 marginal utils per euro. And the idea here is completely indifferent between the two. He does not care which he chooses. So for this example, I'm going to say he buys the Maro bar. Okay, just for no reason. He's completely, I could have easily said he bought the coffee. But we'll go from that. So he's bought the Morrow bar, 1 cup of coffee. So which should he buy? The second Morrow bar, which gives him 8 utils per euro, or the second coffee, which gives him 10 utils per euro? Well, obviously 10 is greater than 8, so he's getting more value for money buying the second coffee than the second Morrow bar. So then we continue on. So which should he buy now? The second Morrow bar, which gives him 8 marginal utils per euro, or the third cup of coffee, which gives him 9 marginal utils per euro? Well, he's getting better value in terms of utils per euro buying the third coffee than the second Morrow bar. So he buys the third coffee. And then we start again. So which should he buy next? The second Morrow bar, which gives him 8 utils per euro, or the fourth coffee, which gives him 8 utils per euro? And again, he is completely indifferent. So last time he said he bought the Morrow bar first. This time he's buying the coffee first, and he's going to do that. Now, don't forget, this was 8 and this was 8. This fraction, the marginal utility divided by the price, was 8 for the second Morrow bar, and the marginal utility divided by the price was 8 for the fourth coffee. So they were the exact same. So there's two things. You have to spend your money in such a way when the marginal utility divided by the price of each good is the same for all goods consumed. Well, we're doing that because that was 8 and that was 8. And then also you have to spend all of your money. Well, he had 4 coffees, so that's 4 by price, which is 2, which is 4 2s are 8, and 2 Morrow bars, which is 2 by the price, which is 1, which is 2, so 8 and 2 is 10. Yes, he has spent all of his money. So now all his money's been spent, he cannot buy any more, therefore he has got no other opportunities to increase his happiness through consumption. So the consumer has maximized his total utility by buying 2 Morrow bars and 4 cups of coffee. And if you want, rewind back to the video and say, okay, look, there's no way now through any other combination of coffee and Morrow bars that he can get a higher total utility from his spending than he could with 4 coffees and 2 Morrow bars. So what we're saying here, he has spent his money in this way because it was 8. The marginal utility divided by the price for Morrow bars was 8, and the marginal utility divided by the price for coffees was 8. He spent his money in that way, and he is also, because it was 8 here and 8 here, and he's also spent all of his money, so there are no further opportunities to increase his total happiness through extra consumption because he doesn't have any more money left. So this proves the rule. So what we're saying is, and this is the law of equimarginal returns, utility is maximized when we spend our money in this way. In what way? When the ratio of marginal utility to price is the same for all goods consumed. And just as an extra caveat, you have to spend all of your money, because if you don't, you will have an opportunity to increase your total happiness, which you're not taking, and as such that's breaking the second assumption about consumer behavior, which is they seek maximum utility. Now that's the end of this video. For the next number of videos, we're just going to be working our way through examples. Okay, so that's the theory done with an example, and now we're just going to be going through question after question after question.